On this episode of Cuesta Dos, the Cinco de Mayo edition, my brother David, me, and our little buddy down there, Matt Santos, we have a fun time. Me and Matt argue a little bit. You're going to enjoy that. No jingles this time, everybody. Sorry about that. But we run down. We start off with the somber tone. Don Shula passing away. We all give a little bit of a talk on that. Then we talk about our Jets a little bit. All three of us are Jets fans. Quincy Enunwa, Josh Bellamy done for the year. What we think should happen with the Enunwa and receiving core for the Jets. Andy Dalton goes to Dallas. What we think about that. NFL plans to start on time and Dalton with fans. You're disgusting, Dave. And we talk about that a little bit. Jameis Winston donates $30,000 to Tampa area restaurants and feeds a bunch of families for 4 weeks. We jump on that and I get mad at people. A judge dismisses the equal pay case for United States women's national team in California. Yep. We let Matt go off about that a little bit because Matt's our little soccer aficionado. Then I go on a rant on why the NBA defenses look bad when the all-time greats absolutely pick them apart, and me and Matt kind of fight, which is always fun.
Not even.
I agreed with you.
Yeah, but then we fought. But then we talk about the NBA postponing the draft lottery and combine, and then the NHL doing the exact opposite and moving up their draft 3 weeks. So a tale of two leagues, and we talk about that a little bit. And in the end, I take away a golfer's man card because a turkey makes him back down.
He did what was right.
So without any further ado, Yapti says, let's get this started. What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to another exciting edition of Cuesta Dos. I'm Alex Cuesta.
I like that.
He's David Cuesta over there. Why you don't like my? Listen, David, we are recording on Cinco de Mayo, so I had to give it a little. Hey, what's up, man?
But that wasn't even like. You just sounded stupid. That wasn't even an accent.
I mean, David's already aggressive, so that's good. And if you're watching, you could see on the bottom screen over there is a Mr. Matt Santos. What's going on, Matt?
How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing fantastic. So again, like I said, we are recording on Cinco de Mayo. We are actually almost on time this week, Dave. We're almost recording on a Monday, but we ended up not because let's talk about this debacle real quick. So Matt has been wanting to come on the show for a while.
It's all my fault.
And it was always a running joke. He needs to get his own show, which I'm going to force him to get his own show anyway on the Sports Opinions Network.
Doesn't seem like it.
It's going to happen. But it was a joke. And David yesterday, early in the day, messages me and
was not early. It was like 3 hours before we were supposed to record.
It was well before that. But anyway, he's like, listen, do you want to let Matt come on and do this? And I was like, yeah, whatever, let's do it. Under that assumption, I figured he was already in contact with Matt. It wasn't that way. Dave was not in contact with Matt. So I make up the itinerary for the show. I send it to both Matt and Dave, and Matt's like, I'm not even home. And that was like, we were going to record in like an hour and a half, an hour. And he's like, I'm not even home. And Dave's like, I thought my brother talked to you. I'm like, why the hell would I talk to him? You brought it up, Dave. Dave is and it's like we share co-hosting responsibility, so I take no responsibility for that. So
no, I already took all responsibility, but I will say it was at 6:40 that I texted you that. So it's not early in the day. It's still my fault.
Early enough. Matt, I'm happy you're here though. I'm happy that you're finally joining us for Cuesta Dos. I feel like we might run through all the Sports Opinions podcast affiliated people because that would just be fun to have them all on.
Yeah,
at one point,
that would be good.
Yeah. At one point. So again, it is Cinco de Mayo, which is a holiday that I still don't understand why we celebrate so hard. But in celebration, again, drinking another Corona. Everyone enjoy. Vassar Brothers Medical Center representing. I got a 12-pack. Shut up, Dave. I have a 12-pack, and I'm going to continue to get it until I can't buy any more because they stop producing beer.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, have you been buying just more and more packs? Because I didn't know if you actually went out and could find any, or you just had a ton at your house.
I found the 12-pack.
Why are you drinking China beer, bro?
The China beer.
Wow. And we have just been kicked off of YouTube.
Let's
Thank
get
you,
to
Matt.
Sports.
Anyway, let's get to sports. So we're going to start off on a negative note. Legend in football, legend in sports, one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest of all time, Don Shula, passes away. 4-time coach of the year with the Miami Dolphins. He's just a legend. There's not really much to say. It wasn't Corona related. He was 90 years old.
He was 90.
He lived a fantastic life. There's been a push to get him his name for the Coach of the Year to be the Don Shula Trophy award. I think that would be appropriate considering he's arguably the best coach of all time. Dave, first with you. Don Shula's passed away. That sucks. How do you feel about them naming the trophy after Don Shula?
I mean, I don't mind it. Whatever they want to do. I'm not going to protest it. It's not like I'm going to say, no, it shouldn't happen. If they want to, they want to.
But protesting is cool now, Dave.
Stop.
Matt, how do you feel? Do you think it would be cool if they named the Don
Shula
trophy for Don Shula?
Yeah, I think it would be cool. He's the all-time winningest coach, so why not?
Yeah, definitely. So we just want to touch on that short and sweet because we already had an episode, Dave, that was so negative. I kind of want to avoid that type of negative stuff. Yeah, we're going to talk about negative. Let's talk about negative stuff in sports. And unfortunately, we're jumping right into a negative in sports for all three of us. We're all three Jet fans. Yep. David is wearing an appropriate shirt today that I got him.
I don't feel like standing up again.
It's the Just End the Suffering, JETS. And it's true on many levels right now. But for the Jets, it doesn't seem to stop. So me and Dave have talked a bunch of times about what if for Quincy Enunwa. He could have been a huge asset, and I say could have, for Sam Darnold this year. When Sam was a rookie, they connected pretty well before Quincy got hurt. Mm-hmm. And we get the announcement today that both him and Josh Bellamy are done for the year. Obviously, Quincy is not healthy. He's not ready. Dave, I've said millions of times on here, for his health, Quincy Enunwa now, like it's official. He needs to retire. It's been over a year that he's been going through this injury. It's not normal for football players to take well over a year to recover. This is neck stuff. Don't mess with your life. You've already made millions. Jets fans know that you could have been a great wide receiver. We know it in our hearts. You don't have anything else to prove, Quincy Enunwa. Dave, go for you.
You ended up being right. I held out
terribly. I didn't want to.
Yeah, I held out a lot of hope that maybe he'll at least be able to touch the field and see what happens. But now he's just done for the season, most likely going to be done for his career because I just don't see him coming back after this.
Yeah. Matt, overall, we look at our wide receiving core. Me and Dave talked a lot about what Quincy Enunwa could have brought to it as a potential number one. Now you look at it, Perriman is probably right there with Crowder as our 1 and 1A. How do you feel about the receiving core now that Quincy Enunwa was officially out of it?
I don't mean to sound like that guy, but I never really considered him as part of it.
That's fair.
That's fine, yeah.
So I was going into the season not even considering him. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I did not realize he was still injured. I didn't realize that he wasn't healthy. But I didn't even it never dawned on me that he could be on the roster. I just assumed he wasn't. That's just been how his career has gone.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And I think for his health, he should retire. But to go back on our receiving core, it's a work in progress. We really need to see what Perriman can be. Need to see what Mims can be. Dotson, Crowder, you'll get 7 catches,
you know what you
but
get.
It might only be for 60 yards.
Yeah. I think a lot predicates on if Herndon and Griffin come back healthy because they are really good receiving weapons, and if Le'Veon Bell can finally get going in the passing game. Now, Matt, I also want to ask you. I don't know if you remember the story, Dave. I don't know if you remember the story. The Jets and Quincy Enunwa had an issue, and I think this was in the beginning of Joe Douglas's tenure, where they didn't want to, was it extend him or pay him for a certain, it had something to do with money. And basically they were holding out on the fact that they didn't know if he was going to be there, if he was going to be healthy. I think it maybe was an extension of some sort. Is this like something where Joe Douglas was right, but he feels terrible about being right? Like Matt, like if you're Joe Douglas and you made the correct move, is it still also like a shot in the arm that a guy's career is potentially over?
I think you have to take the emotion out of the decision. And while he feels bad for Enunwa, he might not necessarily feel bad for not doing anything about the contract because he was right. And that's why wide receivers that are of the lesser quality and running backs in general just don't get paid because they're expendable.
Makes sense. Dave, just overall, last word on this. How do you feel like overall with the receiving core with Enunwa, it kind of makes sense why Joe Douglas was so aggressive with the receivers now. I think he knew something we all didn't. Do you think we're going to have a decent receiving core this year?
I think, if Sam Darnold has time, I think we'll be just fine because I can see a lot of crossing routes with the speed. Most of our receiving core is speed. So I'm going to see a lot of crossing routes, see a lot of routes that will get them open into space in order to make a move. Now, can they do it? We'll see. But I can see us having themselves talent-wise, maybe not the greatest receiving core, but with the way Adam Gase probably wanted this schemed up and the players that he wanted as wide receivers, it could become something that's more of a threat.
Yep. Last thing, a battle I think we need to watch for as fans is at the low end between Smith, Berrios, and Doxson to see who gets that fourth receiver spot. Who's there, because I think that's going to be you're the guy that you're talking about, Dave, that serious underneath threat, that kind of Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, not to put it on their level at all, but their style that play. So we'll see what goes on there.
Yeah. So other than something that's depressing, Andy Dalton, after being cut by the Cincinnati Bengals, he now ended up on the Dallas Cowboys.
We were wrong.
We were incredibly wrong. I think a lot of people were wrong. I don't know if anyone expected that.
Yep.
So you're asking me if he's going to be just a backup or more. He's going to be the backup. I think he's going to push Dak more, even though I don't know how much more Dak needs to be really pushed, but he's definitely going to push him more because he's not going to just give up the starting spot. Andy Dalton's not going to say, no, I'm good being a backup. But I think he will end up being the backup, and he's just going to be a good backup for them. And I don't know, maybe Jerry's thinking, like, I don't have the money to pay Dak what he wants, what he keeps asking. So maybe it's a good thing to keep Andy there.
In general, I think Dallas fans get a bad rep for how they react to football and things like that. Some of them are dumb, but there's dumb fans everywhere. I think the media is going to make this into an awful situation for the Cowboys. I think if Dak doesn't come out firing darts, and even if he is firing darts, because his numbers were good last year, they weren't bad numbers, but for some reason he has the stigma of the guy that can't get it done. So if Dak isn't coming out, if they don't come out 4-1, 5-0, something ridiculous, like with a good start, then I think the media is going to start up the clamor well before anybody else of should we see Andy Dalton start games. Because, they'll definitely bring up that Andy Dalton can win with the run game of Zeke and all these weapons, and accuracy's never been Andy Dalton's problem. For maybe like one season, he didn't look like himself. For the most part, he's been a pretty accurate guy.
Yeah. So
I think that if Dak Prescott does not get off to a start that is, as good as anybody in the league, if he's not up there as he was up as one of the top 3 passers in the league all year, if he isn't that way again, the media is going to start up the calls for Dalton. Matt, what you got on this?
Well, I think Dalton's definitely the backup here. I think it's an insurance policy for Dak. And also, I think it is just in case Dak doesn't do well.
Yeah.
So they have someone capable behind him. But I was thinking about this myself, and it brought up a very interesting possibility that maybe the Cowboys, clinch a playoff spot. And then Dak goes down. And then Andy Dalton comes in and leads the big league to the Super Bowl.
Nick Foles.
I don't know, but Dalton couldn't do that for his own franchise. And he had
that would ruin Dak's career. That would ruin Dak's career.
That would ruin Dak's career.
That would ruin Dak's career.
Yeah, it would. And you know what's interesting? Because it would be where Carson Wentz's career didn't get ruined in a similar situation that you're talking about. It would definitely bury Dak Prescott.
Oh, it would.
He would be out of the NFL. It wouldn't even be. No one would take a chance on him after that. Yeah, that's terrible.
Terrible.
Matt, it sounds like you're wishing. It sounds like you're wishing for this scenario.
When I thought of it, I said a prayer afterwards.
For the record, Matt hates Dak Prescott.
It's just like, look, if I only had to throw under 25 yards too, I'd be all right.
So Tom Brady. Listen, if you look at most of Tom Brady's throws, they're under 15 yards.
Wait. Can I say something? Because it's not a topic, and I wish it was a topic.
Go ahead, say it.
Actually, no. It can wait because it's sort of a topic and it's coming up soon.
All right. Well, Matt, we like to let our guests introduce topics. Here's your chance. Enjoy.
So, the NFL plans to start on time. With fans is obviously what they're hoping for. However, it might be unlikely. David, what do you think of this?
I think I've said this before when we were talking about the NFL and their plans for the season. The same thing is just you plan it as normal, and if it gets closer and the situation isn't going to happen and you can't do it, then you patch things up. You have the plan there, but you run it as if it's going to be normal.
So they're smart in a way. They have no international games. They canceled all them. London and Mexico City. London one I get. Mexico City, right now with the way the pandemic's going into Mexico, it's a smart move because Mexico's struggling with it at the current moment. The schedule, they say they want a regular schedule. Start games in September, 17-game season, Super Bowl in February. One thing that I think right now, and I'm looking at, if I'm a commissioner of the other 3 major sports leagues, I am looking at Goodell like, you're a jerk. Because if the NFL can do this, there is now no excuse for any of these other leagues to not have already done it, kind of deal. Like, because you have to think, they are the biggest league. They pack a bigger stadium than everybody else. Maybe that might help them because they could social distance better. But at the same time, if the most powerful company, if the biggest league with the most moving parts, because their rosters are much bigger than any of these other leagues, they have more people on the sidelines, they have more things going on. If the NFL does do this and start up in September, then the fans are going to turn around. This is going to be a hindsight 2020 thing where fans are turning around to the NHL, MLB, and NBA and going, their plan worked awesome. We're watching football with fans. What are you guys doing? Why did we not even get sports without fans? It's going to be a head scratcher if the NFL can pull this off. And I think the other commissioners are kind of pissed at Roger Goodell and the NFL for even wanting to do this. But I'm excited about it, and I hope it happens. Overall, that's me on it.
I don't think it's going to happen with fans. I think they can and will start on time.
Don't be negative.
I mean, I just think their biggest problem is states like California. Who is going to be... I can't see the 49ers having a home game in 2019. I can't.
Dave, if the LA teams have no home games, are you mad?
They don't have home games in the first place. I knew that's what you wanted me, but I'm going to give it
to you. Oh, man.
So I don't necessarily want... I don't care about fans. I think we will see a pure version of the sport without fans. You get to see what guys actually can do it when it matters. But there's a stipulation. There's a lot less pressure. Guys like Kirk Cousins, that is my personal MVP favorite if there are no fans. The guy can't, if there is no one there to boo him, the guy is money. You don't throw over 4,000 yards that many times in your career by accident. The guy could sling it. The Vikings are going to be a problem if there's no.
I already told everyone, if I am on the defensive side with Kirk Cousins, I'm just talking more trash and just saying to him,
it's not going to work.
Kirk, you realize there's that many more people watching on TV.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
The world sees you sucking. And here's the thing. It has less to do with the regular season because Kirk Cousins is fine if it's a 1 or 4 o'clock game. It's primetime, clinching, and
every game is practice without fans.
Basically.
Kirk Cousins is in the Hall of Fame of practice.
I mean, Myles Garrett might just wall off and hit him with the helmet, though, just because no fans are there to boo him. I feel like we might see some ridiculous stuff with no fans because there's a lot of fights in those little practice scrimmages. A lot more than in the regular games.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Fight.
There's still cameras everywhere.
Exactly.
I'm excited for it, and I'm not the pessimist. David, it seems like you're becoming more pessimistic after our failed supports of both the AAF and XFL. Be supportive of this, Dave. We want fans.
No, I am supportive of this. I said run it normally, run it as if you're going to have the season, but you always keep your eye out. You have your plan that is if anything goes wrong, but just run it normally. Why change it? You're starting in September. It's months away.
I mean, my best game plan, if they do want to do it either way, is do like 30% or 50% capacity.
Yeah, it's whatever they have
Whatever
to do.
they want to do. They'll do something. They'll figure it out because they're smarter than we are.
Yeah, you know, they have more brain power and more horsepower and whatever kind of power that they have. But we're going to work now to someone who a lot of people probably think has like no brain power, even though I would disagree highly with that. Jameis Winston did something very nice for his old area of play.
Future starter in NOLA.
He donated $30,000 to the Tampa area restaurants. It also pay for meals for 1,000 families a week for 4 weeks. I don't even know that part.
Yeah,
but yeah, he did something very nice. I know you specifically wanted to bring this up, brother, because you are upset about people making fun of him on the internet, which is like 75% of what happens on the internet.
Also, I forgot to mention in there that him and Titus O'Neil already teamed up to donate $50,000 locally in the Tampa area. So Jameis is doing a whole bunch, but people are making fun of him for past things that happened with the crab legs, his rape allegations, which are serious with the Uber drivers. And there's certain people that just can't let this type of stuff go. And I get it. If you're angry about those type of things, fine, but take what's going on at face value. If you're so comfortable in this situation that you don't give a crap about small business restaurants and people that can't provide food on their table, for a guy that can help them out, that you're so focused on the one thing he did and not him helping, then you're a miserable human being. You're just a terrible person. And you are a soft person because your typing fingers are so tough, and you can bring up all these allegations and that he's this and Florida State covered up. Who's going to cover up for you when you go to hell? Because that type of thing is awful to say. He is helping people. He is helping people in the worst time, potentially the worst time in American history. And that's what you bring up. Yes, that is proper criticism of Jameis Winston in his past. Not when he's donating food and money to small businesses to help people stay alive. You are all idiots that do that. Idiots. Matt, your turn.
I was going to say, Matt, you got anything to say?
Not particularly. Alex kind of said it all. I mean, all I have to say is Jameis was acquitted.
He was acquitted. Acquitted doesn't always mean not guilty.
I mean,
always by the court of law, yes. But
she admitted to lying.
Yeah, and OJ didn't do it either, Matt. Anyway.
Oh, come on, Alex. Come.
We're gonna move on. We're already not monetized on this one, and we might get sued. So we might as well just go the rest of the way. But so here is where we really get in trouble. We're gonna unleash Matt because we had my topic to be unleashed. Now we have Matt.
I don't really feel like it.
Until I introduce it anyway. Yeah. So U.S. Women's National Team had their lawsuit against the United States Soccer Federation for their claim that they were not getting equal pay for their performance. Now, background, they've been back-to-back World Cup champions. The women's American soccer players are bar none better in terms of what they have brought in years. Since 1993, when the men took third, since that point, the women have been a better group in terms of their international success. That's not even debatable. So they're arguing in the time period, I believe, Matt, is it from 2015, 2016 up until the last World Cup or right after that, they're not getting paid equally even though they brought in more money? I think that's where it is, the lawsuit.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So they had their case dismissed by a judge in California. Now, mind you, this was the same judge that upheld their decision the last time they were in to pursue this further to bring more evidence for their case. And this time, he dismissed it. He said that the main issue that they ran into is their own CBA that they negotiated right after they won the World Cup in 2015. In that CBA, it was brought up by the United States Soccer Federation that they gave them a lot of similar language that the men have in their CBA, where it would be a performance base, and they had the potential to make significant amounts more money than they make now. They chose to turn that down and I'm going off a report I read. I did not read a lot into, I'm not, this is a report that I read. They turned that down in favor of guaranteed money for about 20 women, I think it was 20, 25 women, guaranteed salaries. And basically the judge said, you made this decision in your CBA to not make more money if you were more successful. And he dismissed it. Now, Matt, you've been highly critical of the whole entire lawsuit. How do you feel about the way this decision went down? Do you think it's the proper decision? The women are obviously going to appeal. What are the chances that the United States women's national team gets what they believe they deserve?
I think they need to figure out what they're even fighting for at this point, because it was a very, very sloppy suit here, to say the least. When they broke down the numbers, they actually made $7,000 more than the men in the time frame. I don't understand how they chose to attack a time frame where they not only made more money than the men, but then change your argument to not that they weren't paid sufficiently, that if they were paid like the men, we would have made so much more.
Well, it's because they said they played so many more games, and the United States Soccer Federation brought up that they had a victory tour to play after they won, which was kind of normal for World Cup champions to do, and they played a lot more games because of it. So go ahead.
Per game, when you break down the numbers, the women made $220,000 per game. Mm-hmm. The men made $213,000 per game. So what you have to look at it at what they're getting paid per game. Yeah. I don't care. The women qualified for more tournaments. The men didn't qualify for tournaments that they were eligible to play in. It's not. And even if they did, they would still have to be successful in these tournaments to make those bonuses that the women want so badly. So if they were offered a CBA similar to the men's, where they would have made more money during this time frame, and they turned it down. And
all this money doesn't include the fact that the United States Soccer Federation pays their salaries for the NWSL, which unfortunately the NWSL was grossly underexposed because there is talented soccer players there. It's no debate that there's talented soccer players.
Sure, but you have to sell the product.
Agreed.
You have to sell the product, and the product doesn't sell. If you work for a company that brings in loads and loads of money, you're going to get paid a higher salary than a company of that same size making less money. It's just what happens if the men win the World Cup. It's not even going to be comparable, the amount of money the men are going to earn for soccer in this country, for exposure, for the men's national team, for everything that comes with winning a World Cup. In America, the women have won how many? It lasts for a month, for 2 months, and then it's gone. If the men win the World Cup, it will be like you have never seen before, because outside of a few countries in the international soccer community, do we see countries that genuinely care about women's soccer.
And it's interesting because with the age of social media, there's definitely more exposure. Like this is the first time besides Mia Hamm that we have more than a few handful of household names in the women's game.
But that's not my point with it. As big as they can become in this country, that doesn't make it any bigger on the world stage. So no matter how big it can expand here, it doesn't mean that you can make someone in Spain care, or that you can make someone in another country care. I think one of the big reasons that the U.S. women are so good at soccer is because the opportunities that they get by being Americans, and that it's much more pushed forward for women and girls to pursue sports and to be active, while in other countries they might not have these opportunities.
Now, Matt, to your point, I don't have it right in front of me. I don't know if you know the numbers, but FIFA is actually their disparagement for the price payouts and the prize payouts for the World Cup for men and women is a significant difference as well. So it kind of goes to your point where a men's World Cup champion makes a unbelievable amount more than a women's World Cup champion because, like you said, in the international game, the men's game is probably, it's probably the biggest team sport and the second biggest sport on the planet besides motor racing, because that's the biggest sport. But it's like those numbers have to factor into what's going on nationally as well.
I want to say this, that if the women of England win a World Cup, the British people are going to celebrate and this and that, and there's going to be joy, and it'll be great. But if the men's English national team wins the World Cup, man, there will be a party like you wouldn't imagine.
Until the Euros. It'll go until 2 years until the Euros.
It would be like you wouldn't England. That's what England they consider it their sport. It would be a party like you wouldn't believe, but it wouldn't matter to them nearly as much if the women win their sport.
Now, Dave, I want to throw this to you because you might be able to contribute on this because I actually heard this idea. I was listening to our good buddy, Matt. We both wrote for him, the AOSN, Alex Ataran. He does his little live shows. I was listening to him, and Matt, he knows soccer. He eats, lives, and breathes soccer as well. He was doing interaction with some of his people, and he brought up the point where what should be happening with the NWSL is that the MLS should do similar to what the NBA and WNBA does, where the franchises in the same area should kind of buddy franchise, where the owner of that MLS team should just buy the NWSL team, because it would automatically, the facilities would be already there. The assets, it would be the turnover for in terms of paying employees wouldn't be as much because they're already there. They're already employed. And everything would just be bigger because the MLS is a much bigger, much more profitable product, and you'd be able to market it much better because the MLS is doing a much better job marketing themselves lately than they have been in a really long time. They're on a rise up. Do you think it would be wise for the game of soccer in the United States? Because like Matt said, there's a lot more women that play soccer in a youth level here in the United States and many places in the world. Would it be smart for the MLS to go to the NWSL and have their owners kind of buy the local teams and just put them in the same, like a New York team? I don't know what the New York NWSL team is. I guarantee they have one. But just to sit there and maybe they go with the Red Bulls or they go with NYFC and they become a partner team like we see the Liberty and the Nets and things like that.
I mean, maybe. I'm not entirely sure because the way the owners run their things, the way the leagues run, I'm almost certain it's not going to be the same way the NBA and the WNBA run together, because they really merge together much more than the soccer stars do, honestly. Yeah. I don't know why. It seems like the men and women in basketball seem to be able to come together much more than – I guess it's just different sports.
Kobe Bryant exactly brought them together.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's also we keep talking about soccer, and I'm not very versed in soccer. That's why I don't speak as much as I possibly can. Yeah. But it is such, in both a literal and a cultural sense, a foreign sport to us, that we think that it'll run something like how football or basketball does for us, but it doesn't. It just cannot run that way. We cannot run an American style of soccer. We cannot see our leagues run an American style of way and act like it's going to work out. So I don't know. Maybe it would work if they merged together. Maybe they could market it better. But I'm not entirely sure, because you never know exactly what these leagues want to do and if these leagues are going to be able to sustain themselves. Right now, the MLS is doing very well, but since youth leagues and the youth camps and everything are going down, we don't know how much people are going to love playing soccer. Like younger kids are going to love playing it if they don't have places to go and develop.
Definitely. Matt, what do you think about that idea of potentially the MLS teams buying up the NWSL teams and kind of merging the leagues? Would that work out? I think it would definitely work out better for the NWSL, but would the MLS benefit from that at all?
I don't think the MLS teams have enough available capital to do something like that.
Okay.
I think to even compare the MLS to the NBA is a bit you just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about one established league with, and you could argue the MLS is established, but it's not. You don't have viewers that are going to watch it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for teams to really take on women's soccer at this point, look, the NBA can afford to take a hit. The MLS is expanding all over the place. When was the last expansion team for
Atlanta.
aside from Oklahoma City?
For what,
for
basketball?
the NBA.
Yeah, for
Oh.
the NBA.
Aside
it's
from Oklahoma
OKC.
City,
Oh, I don't know who else before.
Toronto?
Honestly.
We're talking about
possibly Toronto back in the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just found up a stat, and this is probably, MLS, the average MLS club is now worth $313 million, which is, to your point, Matt, is a far cry from the, least profitable team in the NBA. So it is, to your point, you do have a good point there, but it is on the rise. So it might be something they can eventually.
The MLS can't carry anyone. The MLS can barely sustain itself. How is it going? And now you're going to take more dead weight and just pile it on top of each other? Like, I just don't see it happen.
Yeah. So we talked about the NBA. We're going to jump off the soccer. We're going to go into the NBA. This is a topic that I kind of want to bring up randomly. It had nothing to do with the weekend sports.
You really wanted to bring this up.
I did because, I'm seeing The Last Dance has made me think of it.
What did you say on Twitter?
This is where me and Matt might argue because me and Matt arguing is always fun. But so The Last Dance has brought up a lot of things. It's definitely brought up the Michael Jordan stands versus the LeBron James stands. That's been going on. But one thing that I've seen a lot is people on Twitter putting up things going, oh, the defense back in the day, it was better, or the defense back in the day sucked, or it sucks here, and putting up clips of bad defense. And they were doing it for Michael Jordan's era. They were doing it for Larry Bird beforehand. And then again, in our generation now with LeBron James. And the way I look at it, they're all wrong. They're all wrong. I don't think defense, the rules have changed. It's obviously less of a defensive league now. There is no debate about that. But to sit there and look and say, well, this generation's defense was significantly better or not, or Jordan, people were pointing to Jordan. I forget who it was against, and it looked like there was basically no resistance. And my argument with this is, and, Matt, you might be able to relate to this being a soccer fan and seeing the superstars there. When there are players at the absolute, not the fake superstars that we name, but the legitimate superstar levels, your LeBron James, your handful of people that are actually at Michael and LeBron's level, the defenses do look bad. They make them look bad for a few reasons. Number one, they are that much better than everybody there. And number two, you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know how they're going to beat you. They have so many tricks. They're so much better. You have to guard against so many things they could do. It paralyzes all five players on that floor, especially in crunch time. The pressure is there, and I know we make fun of LeBron for crunch time. Everyone needs to shut up. LeBron has made plenty of shots in the last 15 seconds to win games, regular season, postseason. Sometimes he passes. Big deal. We watched Last Dance. I think I've seen 3 games where Michael Jordan has passed out in the last seconds to win games. And if the buckets don't go in, he might not go to a championship. So I want that argument to go away as well. But overall, I hate the bad defense moniker on any of these levels. To me, it's more of the fact of the respect of the superstar paralyzing the defense. And that's why we only see a few guys that are able to step up to these guys. Dave, I want to go to you first because I know Matt's probably going to disagree with me. Dave, how do you feel about that?
I don't know if he'll disagree with you. We'll have to see. But, I mean, yeah, for the most part, yes, these superstars, they are that good at scoring. So, yeah, they're going to make defenses look bad. But I also want to remind you that it may not even be as much as paralyzing a defense as what is he going to do. In today's day and age, we play a lot more man defense.
Yep. Mainly
Mainly because the three-pointer is such a viable option. It is one of the main options in the NBA today, and you cannot run a zone against a good three-point shooting team. They will eat you a lot. They ran a lot more zone back in the day because they weren't as many people that just hucked threes as much as possible.
There was a short time where they outlawed the zone in the NBA, though.
That is
They
true.
just brought it back not too long ago.
That is true. But I'm just saying, when you run multiple different defenses, people are going to look a lot more paralyzed. And when you have someone that can beat the man all the time, sometimes it's better to just risk him taking that shot where he's somewhat guarded, other than making someone come over for help. He has an easy pass and an easy layup. So it's a lot of different things that factor into how you play defense against someone who can score at will at any time and from any level. But for the most part, yeah, they are just very good players. And honestly, very good players, the difference between them and just good players is most of the time they take very similar shots, but they just hit it more. They hit it from that area consistently. So even when you have a hand in your face and still good defense, they're going to hit it from that area. So they make defenses look bad. Sometimes defenses just take time off because you're tired. So you'll take a possession off if it's not a very important part of the game. But yeah, I can see what you're saying 100%.
Now, Matt, I go to you, and I brought up to you with the soccer reference, because you're a big soccer guy and you're a big Ronaldo guy. Portugal, you're Portuguese, so like you really support him. And I feel like it kind of goes in the same level. When Ronaldo's on in a game, soccer is a much more team game overall, but when Ronaldo is on, you can't tell me that it doesn't look like the defense is standing still sometimes. Like, he's that good and he makes it look that way. Mm-hmm. It's kind of similar to, I think, what my argument is. And like I said, we put superstar label on everybody now in the NBA. To me, you can't do that. Maybe there's 5 guys who are superstars at any time in the NBA and everyone else is just a star. Because to me, you got to maintain that level your whole career, like, your peak level. How much do you agree with me in the fact that these guys are just that good that they cause the defenses to look awful, and it doesn't matter what generation it is?
I agree.
Wow.
I don't know. I think the defense is kind of comparable with its time. So it's just there's going to be bad defense for each generation, but it's relative. However, I think this is probably the softest defense.
It is.
So if I had to go off of that, I would say that if it doesn't look easy right now, then it never was easy.
Well, I have to say this, though. We do say it's the softest defense, but the things that we point to the ones with the tough defense with the bad boy Pistons and the Knicks with Oakley, Johnson, Mason. Not every team.
What about the Celtics right before that?
But the Celtics were not as physical. They were very
good.
The
Celtics were not as physical. Kevin McHale clotheslined a guy during a game.
Yes, but it wasn't as. But he did it also
because it was a retaliation. Danny Ainge is one of the scrappiest NBA players ever.
I agree. But I'm just saying. But it's not like we're looking at all 30 teams. We're all sitting there and clotheslining you every time he came into the paint. There were teams that were awful on defense as well, and there were soft teams, and those were the teams that were good enough to maybe have a chance against the Michael Jordan, a chance against the Magic Johnson. So they had to do different things in order. The Knicks were scrappy, but the Knicks were not putting every superstar on the ground every single time they stepped in the paint like they were doing to Michael Jordan or Reggie Miller. They were not on a night-to-night basis. They were tougher than most teams, and but the Pistons were the only team that I remember ever hearing about that did not change anything every game. It didn't matter if you were the best player or if you were the 12th guy on the bench. They were going to knee you in the forehead just for fun. Draymond Green's nut kicks were nothing to them. So the thing is, and so that's my argument here is we always talk about bad defense here, and the rules, yes, have made it more difficult to play defense, but it's not like every single team in every generation were a bunch of these tough guys.
But Alex, you can't even hand check.
And the Knicks stand out. I agree. The not hand checking, stupid. It's designed to score more points. But LeBron James in Michael's generation is paralyzing every team as well as Michael did, period. And it's not even a question, and he's going to get beat up by the Pistons, just like Michael did. He's going to get into scraps with the Knicks, just like Michael did, because those are the teams that did it. But you're sitting there and telling me that the Washington Bullets are going to put LeBron James on the ground? They didn't put Michael on the ground. You think they're going to put a bigger guy on the ground that's a locomotive to the hole? That's why I hate this argument of, and he would be soft in the 90s and 80s. No, he kicked the crap out of everyone in the 90s and 80s. And the same teams that gave Michael problems would give LeBron problems. That's my debate. Matt, I'm wrong.
It's the ability to be able to do it. If any guy gets hot and he's on a heater and he just made the last 3 baskets and he's going to the paint for an easy layup. In the 90s, you're taking him out. It's not a flagrant, not this, not that. You get your point across, and maybe he thinks twice about going to the hoop, trying to, show off a little bit. But now you do that, it's nipped in the butt real quick.
My argument with that, Matt, is the heat check is a long 3 now. Nobody's going into the paint to make that extra basket.
Yo,
So your point's null and void.
I mean,
David, do you have anything to add?
No,
Go ahead.
You're telling me that if Isaiah Thomas, say Isaiah Thomas played when Steph Curry did, and he saw Steph Curry just fucking.
Sorry, go ahead. It's a podcast.
You're good.
He saw just Steph Curry pull up from like 34 feet out. You're telling me he wouldn't just push him one of these times?
Oh, he would he would lean down, grab his ankles, and put Steph Curry on the back of his head.
He would think it's a mockery of the game.
You know what, though? Yes and no, because Michael would pull up. Here's the thing. We forget that Michael would pull up and go for 36-footers and 40-footers when he was feeling it just to embarrass the other team.
But there were certain teams he would think twice about doing that against.
No, he would do it to them intentionally. Those were the teams that he would go at. Just like Kobe. Just like the greats. That's what the greats do.
But
That's why they are the greats.
Michael might do it, but the regular player isn't going to do it against the Pistons.
No, but the thing is, the Pistons, you're proving my point.
I get it because I keep saying Pistons
But not every team.
But the Magic were a tough team.
But they were nowhere near. They weren't
putting the Heat were a tough team.
Maybe Alonzo Mourning hated more than anything. Who else?
The Suns were a tough team.
Charles Barkley was 6'6". Get out of here.
Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, Kevin Johnson will get pushed around by Horace Grant every game. That's a tough guy.
Yeah, that's a tough guy.
Anyway, that was a good debate. I enjoyed that. David, do you have anything else to add before we slide on?
I'm just going to add one
thing.
thing.
Gary Payton was a scrappy dude.
Gary Payton, yeah. I'll just add one thing. I'm just going to add one thing. I see your point, Alex, but I will also say, just like you acknowledge, it is 100% a shooter's league now.
Hell yeah.
So I would venture to say that the normal average player now is a more athletic defender, but they can never be as good of a defender as an average person was back in the day because they don't have the ability to get up in someone's face like they did and cause a little bit more of a mental lapse because they don't want to. They're a little more afraid of taking that shot, a little more afraid of taking it to the basket. But that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, Rob makes a point all the time too. It's all relative. We're arguing these things, and it's all relative. If these guys grew up in that generation, some of these guys might not be in the NBA, and they'd be in different positions. So that was a good debate, gentlemen. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's fun. But we're going to keep on the NBA. The NBA decided to postpone their May draft lottery and combine. So that may be good news that they're trying to finish the season any way that they can. I know that I think Disney was thrown in the mix, the wide whatever it's called, the sports.
Wide World of Sports.
Yeah, Wide World of Sports. I never remember that. But either it's down there or anywhere else, they may be trying to finish the season. I don't know how, but it seems like they might have plans for it. And so this is definitely going to affect next season, no matter how they do this. But how? How will it affect next season? I'm not entirely sure myself. It's weird times. Anything could happen.
Overall, I think the way, it seems to me like they're pushing it back. I don't think you push it back unless you're trying to do like a quick playoff. I think that's going to be the game plan. Let's do a quick playoff. I don't think we're going to see 8 teams in each conference. They might do a truncated four teams out of each conference, top 4 teams. Let's go. I feel like that would be the best way to do it because let's be honest, in both leagues, 5 through 8 don't have a chance. So let's go with 1 through 4. They were already 80% through the season. Teams are the teams that are there. For the way it affects next season, if they don't push that season back, the shortened off season is going to hurt a lot. The guys are going to be coming off of finishing up the season sooner. They're going to have to take their normal rest, so they're going to be playing less. Their bodies might not be ready. the organizations, the scouting's not going to be as good because you can't see these kids playing right now. So the scouts rely on watching these kids play constantly, especially in the winter. And over in AAU, they're not seeing any of that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot of weird stuff going on right now. I hope they just play, unfortunately our Nets wouldn't be in there. The Knicks, Matt, had no shot. But, I would just like to see them finish off the season and crown a champion so that LeBron James can win as a Laker and then he can go wherever his son goes in a few years. Matt, what do you think is going to go on with this?
I don't think the NBA is going to finish at all.
Tier.
I mean, that's
no, and it's not because they can't. It's because the NBA won't. It's because they won't tell their players what to do. And that's what it comes down to. They have no control over their players, and it is a shame. But the players will refuse, and the NBA will do nothing about it. And there will be no NBA season.
LeBron James did concede and say he would play in front of no fans. He just hates the idea of it. So if LeBron James does it, a
lot of people hate the ideas of it.
If LeBron James does it, then everyone else is going to do it. And nothing is smarter than the NBA putting out The Last Dance, because they showed the scrimmage in the last episode with the Dream Team and how all those guys claim it was possibly the best game of basketball they've ever played, and there was no fans there. So this might be their way of like nudge, nudge, elbow, elbow. Hey, they had the best game with no fans. You can have the best playoff with no fans. Ha ha. I don't know. Here's the hopes. All right, Matt, let's talk about a tale of two leagues here. What's going on in the NHL?
The NHL is moving up their draft to June 5th, which is very surprising to say the least.
Bettman strikes again.
The NHL is definitely trying to seize the moment here.
Yeah.
Which I kind of find peculiar because the NHL has their fan base. They have everyone in Canada and the people that grew up watching hockey here. So
the northern states, your Minnesota, your North Dakota, your Michigan, all that. Yeah.
So hockey has a very established fan base in America.
Very loyal.
Very loyal. Very outgoing, but it kind of is what it is. They're not, and the NHL's all right with it. They're not very worried about gaining new fans because they have all of Canada to fall back on. But,
they do have all of Canada.
But all joking aside, I think Bettman is trying to make a power play here, just trying to say, well, maybe we can get a few new fans. Maybe people will watch it. Let's see what happens. But how do you have a draft without having the end of the season? I mean,
also, Matt, I like hockey. I'm not a big diehard hockey fan. I have never watched a single draft. I rely on the updates. The Devils had the first pick, and they're probably going to have the first pick for the next 19 seasons because they suck and they don't know how to put a franchise together anymore. But I'm probably not going to watch. I'm not interested in what, I like to see what they do on the ice. I'd rather watch these guys play in their junior leagues than to watch them in a draft. To me, there's no pomp and circumstance to the NHL draft. There never has been. They haven't established that.
I guess with the NHL draft, you could kind of draft. You could draft from all over the world. So effectively, I guess a lot of the scouting has been done to an extent, and maybe they feel like they could just do the draft without it because college hockey is over by this point as well. So,
if Americans have to go outside of America to find out who might be on their teams, they're just going to wait to see if they're any good. No one is going to sit there, and Matt's having some technical difficulties here. You back with us, Matt?
I didn't hear any of that.
I said, just quickly, if Americans have to go out and find their players, if they're, like you said, they're being drafted internationally, if they have to go out, if they've never seen this person before, if they're not playing at a college or something and they have to research them, they're not going to go look for them. The average fan is not going to care. They're going to wait to see
what. But no one knows the players that they can see already, so it doesn't even matter.
Exactly.
Bettman is clueless. It doesn't matter. Maybe it matters in Canada. I don't know.
It may be. All right, Matt, compare the two. Compare the two leagues. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think is
who's
better?
Doing it better? Yep.
The
This is gonna hurt Matt.
About a draft.
Yeah,
this is
about
gonna
the
hurt Matt
draft.
to say it.
The NBA.
It hurts him.
But about ending a season, the NHL, because the NHL is going to do it and the NBA isn't. So that's doesn't matter how the NHL does it. Just the fact, you know what, the NHL players listen.
Yeah. The leverage is definitely different between the two leagues, and so we're going to close out this episode with one of the better stories that I have seen in sports in a long time.
It's not even a story.
It's not even a story. It's fantastic. It's a little clip that I saw. I shared with David. David showed Matt. There's this amateur golfer. There's no-name amateur golfer guy trying to shoot a shot, and this turkey's having none of it. Absolutely none of it. The standoff is epic. Honestly, I guarantee if you just go search golfer versus turkey, you can find this.
If you search that, it's like the first thing. You'll find it immediately.
You know, the golfer is obviously not trying to hit the turkey at all. Too many eyes. Probably doesn't want PETA to sue him. And he starts off just like hitting the ground with his club, trying to scare this turkey away. This turkey's like, let's go, bro. Let's go, bro. Keeps on coming at him. The golfer backs down. The golfer is soft sauce. He should be kicked off that golf course for the rest of his life and give up his golfing card. You fight that turkey.
I'm not fighting that turkey. I'm not ruining my golf clubs for a damn turkey on the course. I'm not doing it.
It seems like you haven't watched enough Family Guy to know that if you don't take care of this now, it's never going away.
But he fist fought the chicken. He didn't beat him with the golf club.
Dude, you don't touch a turkey, man.
It is true.
Those birds that get mad at you, those big birds, no.
To me,
have you ever had a goose mad at you, Alex?
Oh, I run, but I'm not saying I'm that golfer. I've given up my man card a long time ago. That's not a big deal. He has just officially lost it by not fighting a turkey and now getting it put on the internet.
I think he was perfectly fine. He really stood his ground. He grabbed his hat. He said, I'm already done with this hole. I don't even need to be here.
Maybe he was in New Jersey. He has to try to get away before he can do anything.
The turkey did try to steal his hat, which was fantastic.
Exactly. His hat was on the ground. He's like, I just want the hat. I want to go.
That turkey was trying. Listen, if I can't get blood, I'm taking your hat. That turkey. And even at the end, when the golfer was basically gone, the turkey tried to charge him one more time. And I was like, I really wish that there's more to that clip, and the turkey eventually bites him.
Dude, in Holiday City, the turkeys go in the middle of the road, stop the cars, and then peck the cars. Peck them.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
That's awesome.
Just peck the hell out of them.
That's fantastic. And again,
that's terrifying.
I stand my ground.
You got to roll up your windows.
You fight the turkeys. South Park, the game for PlayStation, had it right. You destroy these turkeys. If you don't, they come back. All right,
so we have Thanksgiving. That's what Thanksgiving is supposed to instill the fear into them, but apparently we don't do it enough. We don't do it enough.
So we need 2 Thanksgivings.
We need 2 of them. We need 2 Thanksgivings in order to instill fear into turkeys.
We need to do it. I think we need to have Thanksgiving
overpopulation
once a month. Anyway, that's going to conclude this fun episode of Cuesta Dose. I want to thank Matt Santos for joining us. Matt, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have any last words to close out the show?
Not really. I mean, it was nice being on. I got my way in the end. That was nice.
I mean, if you don't get your own show, this could be your last time to contribute ever again. So
I hope the trivia game happens.
It will without you. Great idea. Get a show. Not participating.
You can't take the winner off of it.
Oh, I completely can. There will be another winner. David, do you have anything else to add before we close on out?
I mean, there's a fun one. I'm happy I got to see you 2 argue a little bit. I'm very happy we got to see Matt with his take on the soccer lawsuit, because I knew he had some things to say.
Definitely. I'm happy Matt's microphone is in louder than loud, like it has been the last few times. I'm thankful for that. Again, I want to thank everyone for listening to Cuesta Dose. I'm Alex Cuesta, David Cuesta, Matt Santos there. We might have some fun in this quarantine, try and bring on the rest of the whole entire Sports Opinions Network crew. Have them come on Cuesta Dose. Why not? Whoever wants to come on, let's do it. You can find me, Twitter and Instagram at _Cuesta30. Find David on Twitter at DQuesta308. Instagram, Cuesta Cola. Matt, where can people find you on both? I only do it for David because David doesn't remember his own handles. So Matt, where can people find you?
They can find me on the corner.
Not cutting that. Matt, Instagram and Twitter, where can people find you?
On Instagram, you can find me at Santos __. And on Twitter, you can find me at M_Santos7, I think.
And again, you can find Sports Opinions on Twitter at SportsOpinion30, Instagram SportsOpinions30. Listen to this anywhere you can find a podcast. Cuesta Dos actually has its own podcast channel now, so if you just search Cuesta Dos in any of your favorite podcast areas, this will show up. And Yapti, goodbye. So long, everybody. With that, Sports Opinions Podcast, we are out. So long, everybody.